The price of peace. Commander Reina Ortega stood at the viewport of Nexus Station, watching the distant stars with eyes that saw nothing but ghosts. The notification on her console had arrived 17 minutes ago. 17 minutes since her world had collapsed. The holographic display behind her replayed the final moments of Outpost Horizon, Earth's most advanced xenobiology research facility on the edge of known space. The footage showed the Valkyrie warships appearing without warning, their energy weapons cutting through the station's minimal defenses like plasma through ice. No demands, no ultimatums, just methodical extermination. 72 scientists, 18 support staff, 12 security personnel, and one civilian contractor named Dr. Julian Ortega, her brother. Commander, her aide, Lieutenant Park, hesitated at the doorway. The Galactic Council is assembled. They're waiting for Earth's statement. Reina closed her feed, straightening her diplomatic uniform. Then let's not keep them waiting. The council chamber hummed with the low murmur of 24 species discussing the incident. Representatives from the major powers had gathered in emergency session, their various anatomies accommodated by specialized seating arrangements. The chamber fell silent as Reina entered. Ambassador Chidrick of the Valkyrie Imperium sat impassively, his multifaceted eyes betraying no emotion. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber lights, adorned with the ceremonial marks of his clan. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Reina began, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. 3 days ago, the Valkyrie Imperium committed an unprovoked act of war against humanity. Outpost Horizon, a scientific research facility with no military significance, was destroyed with all hands aboard. She activated the central holographic display, showing the massacre in unflinching detail. Several representatives recoiled at the footage. Earth demands immediate sanctions against the Valkyrie Imperium, reparations for the families of the victims, and the surrender of those responsible for this atrocity. Ambassador Chidrick rose from his seat, mandibles clicking rhythmically. The outpost violated sacred Valkyrie territory, as designated by the Ancestral Claims Doctrine. Our response was measured and appropriate under Valkyrie law. That region was surveyed and approved for human settlement by this very council 5 years ago, Reina countered, struggling to maintain her diplomatic composure. The Ancestral Claims Doctrine supersedes council authority in matters of Valkyrie spiritual heritage. Chidrick replied smoothly. We submitted our claim 3 months ago. Reina's eyes narrowed. A claim that was under review and not yet approved. There was no notification to the outpost, no warning before the attack. Warnings are not required under the doctrine, Chidrick said. The presence of the outpost was an existential threat to our religious sanctity. The debate raged for hours, with other representatives offering condolences but little support. Humanity was still the newest member of the galactic community, and few were willing to risk relations with the ancient Valkyrie Imperium. Finally, the Presiding Elder called for a vote on Earth's demands. The result was devastating. Only 3 minor species sided with humanity. The motion failed. This council regrets the loss of life, the Presiding Elder announced, but recognizes the cultural and spiritual autonomy of the Valkyrie Imperium in this matter. We recommend bilateral negotiations between Earth and the Imperium to prevent future misunderstandings. Misunderstandings, as if the slaughter of 92 humans was a scheduling error. Reina returned to her quarters in a fog of disbelief and rage. She accessed her personal terminal, inputting a series of commands that hadn't been used in over a decade. Activate Communication Protocol. Nemesis Prime. Authorization. Ortega R0 5478 Omega. Recipi Int. Admiral Helena Sheehan, Earth Defense Command. Her message was brief. They killed Julian. The Council did nothing, requesting immediate activation of Contingency Dagger. I'm coming home. She spent the night destroying classified files and preparing her resignation. By morning, Commander Reina Ortega, Earth's respected diplomat, had ceased to exist. In her place stood the woman she had been before, Captain Reina Ortega of Special Operations Command, the woman whose squad had ended the Proxima Centauri insurrection with ruthless efficiency. Before leaving the station, she made one final visit to Ambassador Chudrik's private chambers. The Vicary seemed unsurprised to see her. "You've come to threaten me, human?" he asked, mandibles twitching in what passed for amusement among his kind. "No, Ambassador. I've come to educate you." Reina's voice was cold. "Your people destroyed a human outpost because you thought us weak, because you believed we would accept your cultural differences as an excuse for murder. And the Council agreed with our assessment," Chudrik replied smugly. "Yes, they did." Reina nodded. "And in doing so, they've made a terrible mistake. Your Imperium has existed for 12,000 years. Impressive. Humanity has spent most of its history fighting itself. We've perfected the art of war against enemies who think exactly like we do." She stepped closer, unafraid of the physically imposing alien. "You killed scientists who sought to understand the universe. My brother died trying to catalog new plant species. He never harmed anyone." "Irrelevant. The doctrine." "The doctrine is about to become irrelevant," Reina interrupted. "You see, Ambassador, there's something the Council doesn't understand about humanity. We've spent centuries establishing rules of war, lines that should never be crossed, not because we can't cross them, but because we know exactly what happens when we do." Chudrik's compound eyes studied her with newfound wariness. "You've just given humanity permission to ignore those rules," she continued. "You've told us that cultural differences justify atrocity. Remember that in the coming months." As she turned to leave, Chudrik called after her, "Is that a declaration of war, Commander?" Reina paused at the doorway. "No, Ambassador. It's a prophecy." 3 days later, her shuttle docked at Earth Defense Command headquarters on Luna. Admiral Helena Chen was waiting, her weathered face grave. "I reviewed the footage," the Admiral said without preamble. "The Council's decision is a disgrace." "It's more than that," Reina replied as they walked through the secure facility. "It's a fundamental failure of the system. If the rules don't protect everyone, then they protect no one." They entered a conference room where 5 people waited: the heads of Earth's Intelligence Services, Special Operations Command, and the director of the recently established Xenotech Integration Division. "Protocol Mimesis has been dormant for 15 years, Admiral Chen announced. "Today, we activate it in full. The Vicary Imperium has declared that cultural differences justify the murder of our people. We will now demonstrate some cultural differences of our own." Screens activated around the room, showing detailed schematics of Vicary military installations, fleet movements, and command structures. "Operation Dagger begins now," Reina said, her grief hardening into resolve. The galaxy wanted humanity to be peaceful explorers. Instead, they'll learn why our ancestors prayed to gods of war. Wrath of Terra. 3 months passed without incident. The Vicary incident faded from galactic headlines, replaced by trade disputes and political maneuvering. Earth had filed a formal protest with the Galactic Council, then seemingly accepted the outcome. Life continued, until High Commander Tzkalak of the Vicary Third Fleet failed to report for the Emperor's Ascension Day ceremony. An investigation found his quarters empty, with no signs of struggle. The security systems showed nothing unusual. He simply vanished. 2 days later, Fleet Admiral Krithax disappeared from his heavily guarded estate. Then General Fkatar. Within 2 weeks, 17 high-ranking officials of the Vicary military had mysteriously disappeared. Panic spread through the Imperium's leadership. Security protocols were heightened. No one traveled alone. The Emperor himself retreated to his ancestral fortress, surrounded by elite guards. Meanwhile, on a nondescript freighter drifting through the void between systems, Reina Ortega reviewed the latest intelligence with her team. "Target 18 is Admiral Vizcoral," she announced to the 5 humans gathered around the holographic display. "Architect of the Horizon Massacre and the Imperium's Strategic Operations Director, Major Alexei Volkov, former Spetsnaz and expert in zero-gravity combat, studied the fortress displayed before them. Security is unprecedented. 3 layers of scanning technology, quantum-locked access points, and over 200 elite guards. Which is why we're not going in, Raina replied with a cold smile. We're bringing him out. Dr. Maya Lakshmi, the team's xenotech specialist, activated another display. The Admiral's environmental suit has been compromised. We've introduced nanites that will gradually alter his perception of atmospheric composition. He'll believe he's suffocating in perfectly breathable air, added Commander Jackson, the team's psychological warfare expert. According to our Vicari physiology data, he'll evacuate to his personal medical chamber within 3 hours, where a very special doctor will be waiting, finished Lieutenant Wei, infiltration specialist, her eyes glinting with anticipation. Raina nodded. This ends tonight. With T-Coral, we'll have eliminated the entire chain of command responsible for Horizon. On Vicari Prime, Admiral T-Coral clutched at his throat, mandibles flaring in distress as his breathing became labored. His personal guards rushed him to his medical chamber, where the attending physician administered emergency treatment. 6 hours later, the Admiral awoke to find himself in a sterile containment cell. Across from him sat a human female in a simple gray uniform, watching him with eyes that reminded him of the void between stars. Admiral T-Coral, Raina said calmly, I've been looking forward to meeting you. The Vicari struggled against his restraints. This is an act of war. The Imperium will. The Imperium will do nothing. Raina interrupted. Because officially, you're still on Vicari Prime. In fact, all 18 of your missing leaders are officially still performing their duties. She gestured to a screen showing perfect digital replicas of the captured Vicari leaders going about their daily routines. Quantum computing combined with your own surveillance networks. Your security was designed to keep threats out, not realize the threat was already inside. Impossible, T-Coral hissed. Our systems cannot be hacked. They couldn't be, Dr. Lakshmi said, entering the room. Until we introduced self-evolving quantum algorithms derived from studying your own technology. You gave us the keys when you destroyed Horizon. My colleagues there had been reverse engineering Vicari artifacts for years. Understanding dawned in the Admiral's compound eyes. The outpost was not just for xenobiology. It was both, Raina corrected. My brother was studying your world's plant life. His colleagues were studying much more. You killed them all, declaring cultural differences as justification. She leaned forward. Now you will witness humanity's cultural differences. On Earth, we once had a concept called an eye for an eye. Some considered it barbaric, others justice. At that moment, across Vicari space, 18 quantum data packets simultaneously activated. The digital replicas of the missing leaders suddenly began broadcasting the truth. Confessions of their captivity, details of the Horizon massacre, and the complete schematics of Earth's new technological capabilities. More damning were the released files showing the Vicari leadership had falsified the ancestral claims, knowing the region held no religious significance. They had wanted the rare minerals discovered there and saw an opportunity to test humanity's resolve. Simultaneously, every major Vicari military vessel found its systems compromised, weapons disabled, and engines locked. Not a single shot had been fired by Earth, yet the mighty Vicari Imperium stood defenseless. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session as the revelation spread. Ambassador Chudrik found himself facing not just human representatives, but the angry delegations of 24 species now questioning what other cultural practices the Vicari might inflict upon them. This is the price of ignoring justice, Earth's new ambassador announced to the stunned council. Humanity asked for diplomatic intervention. You chose expediency over principle. Never again. The terms of the Vicari surrender were non-negotiable. Reparations to the families of Horizon's victims, the dissolution of the ancestral claims doctrine, and most significantly, the establishment of a new galactic charter that would bind all species to common principles of justice, regardless of cultural differences. 3 weeks later, Reyna stood before a simple memorial on Earth, where the names of Horizon's victims had been etched in stone. Admiral Chen joined her in silence. "Was it worth it?" the Admiral finally asked. Reyna traced her brother's name with her fingertips. Julian believed in peaceful coexistence. He thought knowledge and understanding would bridge the gap between species. "And you?" "I believe peace requires strength," Reyna answered. "The galaxy now understands that humanity will not start conflicts, but we will certainly finish them." As they turned to leave, Reyna's communicator signaled an incoming message from the Galactic Council. The new charter had been ratified by all major powers, including the Vicari Imperium. "Perhaps Julian was right after all," Reyna said softly. "Understanding has been achieved. It just required a different kind of lesson." The Admiral nodded. "They killed one human, and Earth answered with fire and fury, but not a single shot was fired. That," Reyna said, "is humanity's true strength. Not our weapons, but our minds. Not our anger, but our justice." Across the galaxy, species that had once viewed humans as naive newcomers now reassessed their understanding. The message was clear: underestimate humanity at your peril. For when roused to action, Earth's response would shake the stars themselves.